Good afternoon, my name's Amy Smith and I'm a PhD researcher at Imperial College London in the Physics Education Group. Today I'll be talking about an aspect of my PhD research, which is what does a physics student need to do to succeed, understanding staff and student attitudes in physics. My PhD sits within the Strengthening Learning Communities project, which is a 4-year project funded internally within Imperial by the Pedagogy Transformation Fund. I work alongside this lovely group of people here, and collectively we are investigating attainment gaps which were found within physics. My PhD is broadly focused on some of the effective measures such as sense of belonging, but more narrowly on social norms, which I'll discuss in a second. So over recent decades, when we look at education research in physics, a lot of the recommendations have been around stereotypes and changing the stereotypes of physics. But little research has been done on social norms and the social norms within physics. Now, so I just want to talk about a little bit of a comparison between the two. When we think about stereotypes, these are generalised beliefs or preconceptions about a particular category of people. So within physics, there's a stereotype that it is a subject for men, it is a subject for geniuses, it is a subject for nerds. These are stereotypes that have been proven time and time and again that are held generally by the wider population. Social norms, however, are something slightly different. They're generally accepted ways of thinking, feeling or behaving that is endorsed and expected because it's perceived as the right and proper thing to do. That's something that's far more internal. It's not kind of this outward casting a stereotype on, but it's internal, the norms that are going on within it. It's heavily related to kind of the culture of physics. An example might be there may be a stereotype about a particular company that they have a really poor work-life balance, and that may be a stereotype that people hold. Now, a social norm that may exist within that company is that you don't leave the office until your boss leaves the office. Now, that social norm can unknowingly go on to influence the stereotype and actually perpetuate it. Now, that's why I'm interested in understanding what are the social norms within physics and how might these then interplay with the stereotypes we hold about physics. Social norms can be broken down into two broad categories. The first are descriptive norms, and they're what most people in a group think, feel or do. For example, you may look around your office in this said scenario and see that the majority of people are staying at the office until the boss leaves, so then that becomes a norm. There may be an injunctive norm, which is what most people in a group approve of. Now, that may not always agree with the descriptive norm. People may not approve that you're staying late until your boss does, but that you might have the descriptive norm that kind of overweighs that. So I'm interested in what the norms are within physics and how they influence students' behaviour. So these are my key research questions. Firstly, what are students' behavioural beliefs related to study? So that's kind of their own beliefs. What are students' normative beliefs related to study? So that's what do they think is the norm within physics? And then how do both of these things, their own beliefs and the beliefs about what the norm are, influence their own behaviour and authenticity when becoming a physicist? Now, in this talk today, I'm only going to focus really on this key question here, this first question, what are students' behavioural beliefs? But I have some findings on these already, and if people would like to discuss them, feel free to find me in the rest of the conference. So this is kind of the PhD so far. I started in January 2021 and then have essentially since been collecting data. So in October 2021, I collected my first bit of data, which was questionnaires, which I'll show you today. I then collected some focus group data in February 2022, so of this year. And then recently in June 2022, I collected a second round of questionnaire responses. So this PhD is longitudinal, it's tracking students over their degree programme. So for the rest of the PhD up until 2024, it will essentially be longitudinal repeats of this, so questionnaires and focus groups to track any changes in students' beliefs, both their own and the normative beliefs. Now I'm going to focus in on, as I said, kind of this questionnaire results, which are going to look at that first research question. So what are students' behavioural beliefs? So I'm just going to move this over here. So one of the questions in the questionnaire, and this is one of the key questions, is what behaviours do you think are valuable for a physics student at Imperial College London? So within that context. And I asked this in October 2021, and this was when first year students were just arriving at the university, pretty much within their first couple of weeks. I managed to get a response rate of 42%, so 113 students. And you can see here that they've responded on a Likert scale of going from extremely valuable down to not valuable at all. Now, you might spot, if we just have a look at kind of the key trends, one of the main things that you can see is that discipline-based skills, the ones we really heavily associate with physics, are seen as being the most valued or seen as the most valuable by students. Good problem-solving skills, good mathematical skills, things like organisational time management skills. These are placed as being extremely valuable. On the other hand, if we look towards the bottom, you can see that things like these social transferable skills are being seen as less valuable for a physics student at Imperial College London. So these are contributing to discussions, good social communication skills and good cross-cultural awareness. So these are being seen as, for a large proportion of the students, still very valuable, but there is a significantly bigger portion of students who are seeing it as having no value at all or of little value. Interestingly, students also place being intelligent, smart or clever towards kind of the bottom of this if they were ranking, if we perceive it as a rank, comparatively as being less valuable. Now, I asked this question also to staff. Now, this was partially to understand the normative beliefs of what is the norm within physics, and you can see their responses here. Now, overwhelmingly, they are very similar to students. You can see that things like problem-solving skills, mathematical skills, organisational skills, again, are kind of seen as extremely valuable. And towards the bottom, you have those social and communication skills, which are placed as having less value. There are a few key things that are different. If you look at any item that is highlighted in red, these items are ones which showed a statistically significant difference from student responses. Good problem-solving skills, although rated as being most valuable by both groups, has a much higher value for staff. So you can see that it's kind of a standout big difference between these first two things. If I just go back to the students, you can see that they're much more similarly seen as extremely valuable. So problem solving is kind of a standout skill. The rest of the skills were actually seen as more valuable by students. So students saw more value in being independent or self-directed, being a good team player, and good cross-cultural awareness. But again, you can see these items again are kind of placed towards the bottom of this ranking. Now, I measured then students' beliefs again, but at the end of their year, so at the end of their cohort, at the end of their first year, and got these responses. So now you can see that there's actually a big shift in some of the ways that students actually see value in particular skills. For example, good problem-solving skills actually dropped quite significantly within this value, and instead has been replaced by things like mathematical, modelling and statistical skills, which is now far more of a standout skill. And then you can see that actually some of the less disciplined things are taking a place at the top, such as being independent, strong work ethic, good organisation. Again, at the bottom, there's no real shift in what is seen as least valuable, but what we can see is that the extent to which they're seen as not valuable has actually increased. So again, social communication skills, cross-cultural awareness, discussions within tutorials are seen by a great proportion of students as not valuable at all and as having little value. So you can see that over the course of the first year, there's actually this shift. Now again, all the items in red show a statistically significant difference between the start and end of the year for students. So all these three have been shifted to being seen as less valuable. Organisation and good problem solving skills have been shifted to seeing less valuable, and the only one which has actually increased in value is coding or programming skills. So that's seen a shift and is now more valuable to students. I've just highlighted another one here, which is being intelligent, smart or clever. That did not show a statistically significant difference, but what you can see is that it has a very much stands out in the data here as having a high proportion of extremely valuable. Now, the reason why this hasn't shown a statistically significant difference is because I think everything else has essentially shifted to being less valuable. So it's kind of stayed at the same value, whereas other things have shifted to being less valuable. So in that way, it kind of does show that it's different from some of the other items. So really, what does that ask? What kind of questions does this raise? Well, why do students see less value in communication and transferable skills? And how can these be meaningfully embedded within the physics curricula? Now, this is a question that's being asked by the Institute of Physics currently, and within their accreditation, they are showing more focus on trying to embed transferable skills. I've taken out a quote here from the new accreditation from last month, which says students need to see the relevance of the skills they're obtaining to physics, and integrating skills coverage into physics modules can be very effective. So really need to think about how can we embed this authentically. And then finally, what encourages the intelligence stereotype to persist? There's evidence that it's not decreasing in value like some of the other ones, so why is that staying? Now that's obviously a quick overview of one aspect of the PhD research. If anybody is interested in discussing some of the other research questions or discussing some of the focus group findings, then I am more than happy to discuss. And you can find me either on email there or on Twitter, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.